Hello, everybody. I'm Pasha Marlowe, and this is the Let Pleasure Be the Measure podcast. Sometimes I get extra excited to bring on guests, and today is one of those days because today I bring you Amy Angelilli, who is the Chief Adventure Officer of the Adventure Project, who also teaches improvisation and laughter yoga and does team building, bonding, and development for organizations. A playground of a woman. I love speaking and playing with Amy. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a playground of pleasure.
A playground of pleasure. I know it sounds so sexual, and I've been looking for sponsors for the podcast, and the only people who've reached out so far are sex toy organizations, and not like nice sex toys. So I haven't found one yet, but I see pleasure as all encompassing of all things that light me up and light people
Yeah.
up, be it desire to
Yeah.
comfort to joy to laughter. How do you define pleasure?
Exactly the way you define it. And it's funny because when I first moved to Florida about 5 years ago, I went to a women's networking luncheon every month. And it was one of those ones where you'd have to stand up and explain what you do. And because I'm not, like a plumber, an accountant, or a lawyer, it's always a little bit challenging, right? When you're talking to people who are in more normal career paths.
The
So
people
I
who
would
wear like clothes with
say,
buttons.
yeah,
I don't understand.
colors. So I would say I play with grown-ups, and then the room would get quiet, you could hear a pin drop, and it's like, well, actually that really is what I do.
You're right.
um and it is a pleasure to do what I do, and I really feel how pleasurable that is when I'm on like the back end doing what I'm doing and like sitting at my computer,
Yeah.
doing the administrative stuff. And like honestly, the only thing that keeps me going through those administrative days is knowing that like pleasure is
Right.
right on the corner. And I love how you define pleasure. Last week I was on a Zoom call with my mastermind group, and they said that when I talk about the kind of play work that I do, that my whole like physical body starts to change. Now that they've been talking and watching me on Zoom for several months now. But when you're in that place of pleasure, you start to become a better version of yourself. But it's not like, well, I'm going to wear my hat, that this is like the best version of me hat. Like it just organically
Yes.
happens.
Yes. I feel like my body language is more open. I'm more expressive. My face is more expressive now that I'm doing more pleasure and play work. My hands are more expressive. I definitely know that posturally, I don't know if you've noticed this about yourself, but for myself, and I was playing small in my personal and professional life, and my posture was starting to look small. Like my shoulders were rounded. I was
Yeah.
very tight in my chest, so much so that when I would stand up to stretch, you would hear like, like the cracking of my chest bones because I was so tight. So it feels more vulnerable in a good way and in a terrifying way every day, which keeps my energy up to do the very boring tasks that you're talking about, all the back end baloney. I dislike it. But right, if at the other end is that you're going to talk to somebody or play with somebody, all right, fine. I'll
Do
muddle.
you want to do a stretch with me right now
A
that I
stretch?
yeah
Sure.
that I do with my in laughter yoga? One of the things that I emphasize is exactly what you're talking about, this thing that we do. And
Mm,
part of it comes from playing small, part of it comes from too much time on the phone, part of it comes from too much time on a computer. If you take public transportation, you're hunched over. If you're driving a car, you're hunched over. Like there's so many things that we do that are hunching that isn't normal, but because of advancement and technology,
right.
we
Right.
just have the hunch. So take your index fingers.
Okay. This is going to be a YouTube worthy episode, I can tell. So our index fingers are pointed to the sky for
Your
those.
index fingers are pointed to the sky. Yes, yes, yes. And then just put your index fingers literally on your shoulders. And you want to push your shoulders up and back.
Oh yeah, crack, crack, crack. Like shoulder blades in the back pockets kind of thing.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's it. That's it. And you do this whenever you think of the hunch. This is the
Yeah.
anti-hunch, right?
Yeah. I
And and you can do this without your fingers, but I always invite people to use their fingers because it's like you're making a more conscientious effort when your fingers are involved.
yeah, 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 it is. It's more intentional because I often do shoulders down and back or shoulder blades in the back pocket. But there's something also more intentional and tactile, really, about the fingers. And sometimes I just say tits out because
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, we got you.
like walking into the room, it turns out because I spent so many years, like 48 of them, not only playing small, but not really like feeling safe to be open hearted or open chested. I'm still not one to show a lot of skin or cleavage, working towards it. Not today, clearly, but anyhow, I think it's something to move towards, to be able to embrace yourself and open up to receive whatever pleasure and play and people come your way while protecting yourself in safety. It's like such a balance every day, I find, of like, I love everybody come to me, okay, but only if you're nice, and like I got, it makes me nervous to walk outside to do what I do online because there's a safety in
Yep.
the online world. Mhm.
We were actually talking about something very similar last night in improv class. So we've started to go back into the classroom here with safety precautions. And the space that we're currently using is a yoga studio, which actually is really perfect because improv is a moving meditation.
Yeah.
And it's about being in the present moment, and the yoga studio is about being in the present moment.
Mm.
Um, but we were talking about what happens outside of the safety within the four walls that we were in,
Yes.
just like what happens outside of the safety of the Zoom room.
Yeah.
Um, because part of what happens when people have transformational experiences, even if they're transformational experiences involving play, and I say even because people don't think of play as being transformational, and it really is when you're talking about cooperative play where basically everyone wins.
Yes.
um they the bonding that happens through the shared experience increases rapidly. And
Yes.
so you feel like you have this little family that
Yeah.
the people in that space would have never otherwise crossed paths, but now that you've had this experience that's safe,
Mhm.
supportive, fun, enlightening, all those things, it's like you have this magic.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, well, what do I do outside of the space? And
Right.
you have two choices, right? You can
Mhm.
say, I'm going to keep this here with us,
Mhm.
or I'm going to start to spread this
Mhm.
to other people outside of our space.
Mhm. And do you find it to be true that it's easier for some people, and I'll put myself in this category, to share this new playfulness that I'm embracing sometimes with strangers more than the people that
Oh
I
my goodness.
know the most intimately? Like it's
Yep.
like my final frontier will be showing this part of myself, which is clearly my best self, to my partner.
Mhm.
That's I haven't bridged that yet. He
Yeah.
has never even probably seen me belly laugh or play because there's so much, I'll say crud or history or
Mhm.
other stuff in the way. So do you find that phenomenon happening?
Yes, yes, and yes. Several summers ago, I was a counselor at Camp Grounded, It's
Hmm.
the digital detox summer camp for grown-ups. And
Cool.
so the camp rules were, of course, no technology. Also, no work talk, no drugs, no alcohol, no real names. So basically, any social device that brings us comfort by sort of knowing who we are was
Wow.
stripped, so we
Wow.
could be anything, right?
Love that.
And everybody was so vulnerable to each other, and so many people were meeting there for the first time. And as a counselor and a facilitator, it was amazing to watch exactly what you were saying happen, right? Total strangers opening up in the woods in these massively playful and vulnerable ways, and then everybody goes home. The
Mm.
stakes are lower with strangers.
And that transition between that experience and going home, I would imagine is quite challenging. Even after any wonderful healing retreat, the few days after or the week after is very hard. Like, how am I going to integrate this experience, this new knowing of
Yep.
myself and others?
Yep.
How do you
And
integrate?
that's when I really started to hone in on that question of, do I keep this to myself and the people that were in the shared experience, or do I start to
Mhm.
bring pieces of this to the world? And you you can't keep all those things to yourself, so
Mhm.
it's actually a mix. Like, some of the things you did, people won't quite be able to wrap their head around without having gone through the experience with you. However, the sentiment of the shared experience, the values of the shared experience can be shared and need to be shared, because it's how we, like, some people call it, raise the vibe
Mm.
of an entire community, entire country, an entire world.
Mhm.
For me personally, uh, I did not know a soul. I didn't know a soul, and I was coming to camp in a leadership position.
Mm.
It was my first time living in the forest for an extended period of time. Um, Camp was in session on the weekends, and then during the week, we had a break. Wednesday-ish, and after the first weekend, I said, "Oh, I need to get online. I need to get online. I need to see what's going on." You know, After the second week, oh, well, I should check in just to make sure, nothing terrible's happened. And then after the third weekend, I didn't want to touch any devices. And that was in Mendocino. I went to visit a friend in Napa.
Mhm.
And when I stepped into her house, I started to get claustrophobic
Mm.
because of the walls and the ceiling, because I had been
Curious.
in so much open air in this big forest.
Right.
And if you think about it, that's how we were meant to live.
Yes. Yes. And for those of us that might not have the opportunity to, for a weekend or a week or 3 weeks, go out into the forest, I I feel an expansiveness when I'm in a improv class or a play group or a group of adults who's just willing to relax expectations and enjoy silliness and play. And so finding ways to bring this into our current life, especially now with the
Yep.
pandemic when we're a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
restricted from traveling, to find ways that we can have that sense of kind of wide open space, if not just internally and mentally, the
And
ability.
even even in a city, like, to find
Mhm,
a bench to sit down and
mhm.
to take in all the senses, like, to really tune into what's going on around you, rather than check in on the phone, to just have that heightened sense of awareness.
Yes.
I have my improv students on day 2 of level 1, when we talk about being in the present moment. I have them stare at the 4 walls of the room for a minute each.
Each
Uh,
wall.
each wall, yeah,
Mm.
each wall a minute. And then, we talk about, how did that make them feel? What did they notice? and we never notice as much as we can because we're only ever partially tuned into wherever we are.
So true. So true. And I bring that similar work into if I'm in the middle of a panic attack, or like even this morning, I was having a bit of a panic attack because it was a um, painful medical procedure. And I started to tune into my senses and I said, that in my head, that door is blue. Blue. What else in the room is blue? Oh, the doctor's tag is blue. That tissue box is blue. Like, and just noticing, and it eased some of the pain, but it definitely relaxed my nerves and it made me more present in the moment and even potentially more present to the discomfort, but I didn't hold as much struggle around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, 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 yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
But using that technique of tuning into the five senses, I've used it as a therapist to help people through anxiety and panic attacks a lot. And it's so useful. It's a wonderful improv exercise to get people out of their thinking brain, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of my students said last night after a game we played, that game forced her to think more, and I'm like, oh, think
C word.
no. We spend so much of our time in thought, especially about the past and the future.
Yes.
If we could just be uh more, not be more, but just be more.
Yes.
Be more
Right.
often. Be more often.
Right. Don't worry about being more. Just
No, no,
be
right. Yes.
more. Right.
Be period. More period.
I hear you. I hear you. And so, what are the ways that you, on your, I'm sure you wake up on days where there's sadness or heaviness or darkness, and it's hard to transition to a place of laughter, yoga, or improv. What is your favorite tool for yourself to bring yourself to that place where you can be of service to others and yourself through yoga and laughter and improv?
um, it's it's very weird. And the reason why I say it's very weird is because those places are my happy places.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I there was a somebody I used to do improv with when I lived in Denver, and he always skipped the warm up process because that wasn't what he needed. He just needed to go on stage like fresh rather than like a little bit already depleted from warming up.
Mm-hmm.
What I've discovered when I perform is I just need a couple minutes to myself just to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to facilitating and leading laughter yoga and improv and all these fun things, like that is what I need. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So even if like I'm not a morning person, so I never am springing out of bed like, woo, can't wait for the day. I'm always like, someone give me some damn coffee or I'm gonna rip someone's head off, right? So I'm not pleasant to be around in the morning.
Note to self, do not sign up for one of Amy Angelilli's improv classes in the morning.
Whenever anyone suggests the morning, I'm like, can we maybe rethink that? Um, and even if, it's like 10 minutes before something's about to start and I'm feeling grumpy, as soon as I get into the space, even if it's just a Zoom space, it's literally like a light clicks
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky to have that happen.
Yes.
Um, but I think like everybody's different and everybody needs to find the thing that is their light switch.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I know so many of my coaches have said, get a trampoline, jump on the trampoline, do breath work. And I've tried those things. It doesn't work for me. Similar to you, I think it's like I could be 30 seconds before you and I met, kind of in a place of heaviness or sadness or distraction. But as soon as I see you and your eyes and your smile and see your energy, it instantly brings me into the
Mhm.
present. But I feel like I need other people, and I'm learning that about myself. That I'm while I'm learning to try to enjoy my own company, I also know that what lights me up more than anything is the energy of other people. So
Yep. Yep. Um,
extrovert in me.
so this, I've been talking about this actually in the past few days, with some people. And so part of the reason why I love improv and am drawn to it is because it's a co-creative process with at least one other person, if
Yeah.
not an ensemble. And I really enjoy that process. Like I enjoy like my helping you to be a better version of yourself and vice versa. So in the past, say, week or so, I've been talking to some of your other guests, that are friends of mine about, well, how can we do that like for ourselves? Like,
Right.
like how do we follow the fun if we are one of these people that, um, likes a people stew, like likes to mix it up with people to sort of like raise the energy of the entire space with the people who are in the
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did something perfectly unperfect on Friday. I took a little video, um, about this little video adventure that I'm doing, where I'm exploring different facets of improv and different applications and how it's affecting people and organizations positively. And my goal is to do it however imperfect it may be.
Good.
And
Yeah.
so the first one was really, really imperfect because I didn't know that Instagram cuts you off after a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
I
did
was
a
like, imperfect,
yeah.
check.
I did a really great live yesterday. Apparently, people are like, comment, comment, comment. I didn't need the comments during because that takes too much. And then I'm pretty sure I erased the live because I couldn't find it anywhere. I did this apparently really great live and I don't know where it went. So I still don't understand Instagram. I don't get it. So you did an imperfect video to embrace imperfection. That's
I
great.
nailed it, nailed it, nailed
I
it.
think it's good. It's so refreshing to see people, obviously be imperfect and make mistakes, but even just like the blooper reels are always the best part. And I love when it's messy and a little bit edgy because it takes the pressure off, us all. And our mutual friend Gary Ware has this great, magic component to his work. So I imagine that, if he's in a space that he might start to make a new like card that he'll do magic on. And
Uh-huh.
Jeff Harry and I were talking, and he says, sometimes I just numb out and watch Netflix and don't do anything funny all day. He's like, but when I want to do something funny, I make a TikTok video. And so we all have something. We all have
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah.
And so for
So
you, it might
they
be
were my muses. They were my muses. They're like, we're we're sick of you always, lighting up and having fun and talking about this and doing this. And then it's always live. It's never captured. Capture some of this stuff.
That's great. It's great advice. It's great advice. And I saw one of your lives. You were across the street from a gas station.
That's it. That was it.
Oh,
That
good.
was it.
Which reminded me of an improv game. I'm like, of like doing two uncorrelated, things like what kind of strange things would you likely never do in a gas station, like have a wedding or whatever. It made me start thinking about how
there's
we
two
can.
there's two cottages
Yeah.
by the beach there, and a local artist has done these beautiful flower murals on those two cottages, and it's so cool. And then you turn around and then there's the gas station. So it's like, things aren't always what they seem, right? And so we've got to peel back the layers of the onion.
Yeah. And it's always those. I mean, what picture have we not taken in our house where like the couch had laundry on it, but then you like shove all the laundry to the floor to take the picture of the couch behind you. That happens all the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I just stick to one frame and then I know I only have to clean like 3 feet in that way, 3 feet in that way. Show mostly the ceiling. I'm good. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we spend a lot of time on social media, and I feel like social media itself is like the one frame. It's the outer layer of the onion,
Yes.
and everybody has so many more rich life experiences beneath the surface. And what we take from social media is our interpretation of whatever is out there.
Mhm.
That person may or may not be rich and famous. That person may or may not be successful, whatever that means anyway. That person may or may not be, a million different things. And part of the digital detox camp was to get people off of the socials, because we have this comparisonitis going on,
Yeah.
and we're comparing like our real lives to like
Right.
one dimensional social media life that we're seeing on the screen.
Yeah. I've heard it. We're comparing our backstage to their front stage. You know what I mean? Like we're not seeing, behind the curtain
Right.
at all. So what's your favorite improv game? Do you have a favorite?
Well, you want to play one?
I'm terrified to say yes, because I'm new to this, but yes. Yes, I want to play because there's no one-way liberation. Yes.
Let's play crisis situation.
I don't
This
know
is a
what that
great
is, but I'm in
two-player game.
crisis.
And we've been in crisis over the past year, and so this is a fun way to flip that on its head.
Okay.
So what the goal of the game is I'm going to have a random inanimate object that's going to solve your crisis, and you're going to have a random inanimate object that's going to solve my crisis. So what I'm going to ask you to do is think of a crisis.
A real
And
crisis, or am I making one up?
you're going to make up a crisis. You're going to
Oh.
make up a crisis, and you're going to make up an object. So for example, it could be you got a flat tire and your object is a bag of lemons.
Mm-hmm.
Something
Okay.
like that. And I will do the same. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to reveal what we have.
Oh.
And then for example, that bag of lemons that you had would solve my crisis.
Okay, but I'm not telling you what my crisis nor object is at the moment.
I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to think of an object and a crisis.
Okay.
And I will have 3 seconds to think of an object and a crisis.
I'm ready.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
My cat got out and I have a hair dryer.
Do I tell you my crisis and
Please
object now?
do.
My toilet clogged and overflowed, and I have a yoga block.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you that my hair dryer is
Mm-hmm.
the perfect tool to help
Mm-hmm.
your toilet clog.
Yeah.
Because oh yeah, well first of all, we want to clean up all the water that's overflowed so we
Yeah.
don't step in it. So I'm going to use my hair dryer to just dry the area.
You dry the poop all over.
Yes, it makes it much easier to clean that way. And then I'm gonna direct my hair dryer into your toilet. And the heat is going to melt whatever is stopping up that.
That's handy because the plunger didn't work, so you're going to
Yeah.
melt it.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah, I've seen it on the YouTubes many times, so no worries.
okay. Who
So,
knew?
I know. See what you learned?
Yes, I'm actually going to think of that the next time every day my son clogs the toilet. Okay, so now your cat got out?
My cat got out, and you have a yoga block.
I have a yoga block and the cat got out. The yoga blocks are a little bit squishy. And so you could actually stick your finger in and make little holes. And then you could stick little pieces of catnip and cat treats in it. And you could create this entire block of catnip happiness. And then you're going to put it on your stoop because the cat's not going to come back just to see you because because you're boring. Then the cat's got squirrels and mice and things, but catnip is good. So I'm going to shove it in the yoga block and put it on the step and attract your cat back. While the claws of the cat try to get the catnip, they'll get stuck in the yoga block, the claws, and you'll be able to pull your cat back inside.
Oh my goodness. Not only is that an amazing idea to make my cat come back inside and leave cat TV outside, when my cat is done removing all the catnip, I'm gonna use those holes to stick cheese into so
Yes.
that I can eat less cheese uh, slowly.
Portion control. If
That's
we
gonna
make
help my cheese habit.
if we make it harder for ourselves to get to the cheese, we
Yes.
will. That's great. That's great. Very good. I like it. I like it. A crisis and a random object. I'm writing it
So,
down.
so
I will.
crisis solved for both of us.
I love it.
So besides the ridiculousness of that game, which I love everything everyone ever says in that game, um, it's the ultimate it's the ultimate way to accept the reality of the situation. And
Mhm.
because human beings always gravitate towards a no state of mind, no, that won't work. No, I can't do that. No, we can't figure that out. Um, it helps us be it more of a we can do it mindset.
I like it. And I like that it's very attainable. It's very simple to you think of something to go wrong and the random object allows you to like dare to be dull and not try to think of
Oh
some
yeah.
funny
A-
object. It doesn't
oh yeah.
yeah.
Please be dull. A pen. Yeah.
Yes, and I know an improv teacher of mine said, improv isn't comedy, and I was so new to it. I was like, "What? Of course it is." I had no idea, but once I learned that improv was different than comedy, and that improv is just being present and collaborating, communicating, I was like, "Oh, we already do this every
Mm.
day." It took so much pressure off. So how do you? Because I'm sure you get terrified
I
new.
love your improv teacher.
Yeah, he teaches improv at Stanford in California. And yeah, and
Ted?
he says, what's
Is
that?
is this Ted?
No, his name is Adam Tobin.
Oh, this might
Yeah,
be a new friend of mine.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And he also teaches screenplay writing. I should really know.
nice.
But anyhow, he was a childhood friend of mine. And once I started doing the therapeutic comedy work, I reached out to him and I was terrified of introducing improv, even though I knew I needed to bring it into my Zoom meetings to engage clients. And as soon as he said, he's like, Posh, dare to be dull. I'm like, what? Like, oh, okay, that I could do. And then it gives us the opportunity to just say something like sticky note, pen,
Yeah.
water
Mhm.
bottle. Like I just thought I had to be really witty, but no, no, you don't.
I find that the majority of my students work harder than they need to. And
Yeah.
so at the end of the class, they're always so worn out because they're trying so hard and the wheels are turning um, on how to be funny, how to be witty, how to be quick-witted, how to be all those things. And I go back to just be period.
Nice.
Just be period, more
More.
period.
Period. Just be period. More dull. Period. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And so when people come to your classes, do you have to work through some of those I guess newbie jitters, right? The
Yeah.
nerves and the panic. Do you have a favorite warm-up exercise that just gets people loose?
So I actually have people breathe and stretch with
Nice.
their eyes closed at the top. Um, because I feel like improv is like dating,
Okay.
right?
I don't know.
Because you date with somebody else, you do improv with somebody else,
Uh-huh.
and you have to spend a little bit of time alone before being with another person. So if we're in an in-person setting, I have um I have them in a circle but facing the outside of the circle.
Oh,
And and then they close their eyes and then I lead them through some breath work and then I invite them to do a stretch that's meaningful for them. And
nice.
that little exercise is the difference between what happened outside of the room during the day
Mm-hmm.
and then what's about to happen inside the room together.
That's a nice transition. It gets them into their more intuitive embodiment of what's going on. Yeah,
And at
nice.
first, they think it odd, and then they start to appreciate it because they're
Mm.
actually feeling the value of it. And I've had people like run in late, like, oh, did I miss the breathing? I have to breathe. I have to breathe. I have to breathe.
You like send them over there to take a moment.
Yeah.
Well, we forget it's the easiest thing. And even as a yoga instructor, I forget that simple tool in my toolbox that's there all the time for me. I'm like, oh, right. We can breathe, and it helps if we breathe deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. And a simple thing that literally we do every day that keeps us alive, if we did it with a little more intention, once
Hmm.
in a while, could benefit us. Great.
Yes.
And
Now,
like I practice yoga, I practice laughter yoga, and I say I practice improv because I am a work in progress, just like anybody else.
mm, that was going to be my next question, is like, what's still scary? Like, what situations you're like, all of a sudden, I'm not the laughter improv, I'm shy. Thank you very much. Like, that's me in a big group. I'm not great in at a big party. I'm extremely
Yeah.
shy. Probably feeling a little like unsafe, can't read the room, and I need to see people's eyes, and I need to have some sort of energy or soul connection before I open up.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people if assume that a person who is in the improv world is a comedian, is the life of the party, is someone that can hold court. And like, yeah, sometimes we can.
Mhm.
And some of us are more like that more of the time. Um, but when people will say like, "Well, do an improv."
Be funny.
Yeah, like,
Say something funny.
yeah.
Right.
Um, it's like such a different world than stand up, and not just because it's unscripted,
Mhm.
uh, but it's a completely different process. And
Mhm.
so people don't realize when they're pressuring you to like be that. I like this little do the little dance.
Like the court jester. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That is the perfect phrase. Be the court jester. Yes. Uh-huh.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely not me. Although I'd love to say that I'm working up to comedy. I don't know at what point you could say you're a comedian. I don't know how many people have to laugh at you before you can say you're a comedian. I don't know. But I like the
No one,
idea.
just call yourself a comedian.
What's that?
I said, no one, just call yourself a comedian.
Perfect. Well, as I call myself a comedian, I'm like, oh, people are going to expect me to be funny. So I lead a lot of groups, and then they say, oh, goody. I'll go into Clubhouse as a guest, just trying to be anonymous, learning something new. And they'll be like, oh, yay, Pasha's here. Oh, Pasha, come up on stage. Make us all laugh. I'm like, shit. Like, I'm like not in the space, not in the mood, wasn't prepared. So it's really tricky to be put on the spot like that. And I think that sometimes relates to my like ADHD. Like if you ask me to write, a poem, I'm probably not going to be able to write a poem, but I'll write a poem on my own time when I want. I'll write a book tomorrow if I want to, but don't ask me to tell you what the chapter is about. I'm very much in the moment. So if it feels safe and organic, then I'm there. But somehow when somebody asks me to be funny, I'm like, I just go cold turkey right away.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be funny when you're not on the spot. And that goes
Yeah.
for students in improv classes too.
Right.
And in fact, even in a theater space with a paid audience, like
Mm.
I always, tell the people that are performing with me that the audience may laugh, and that's one response to what we're doing. And
Yes.
there's so many responses
Yeah.
that could happen over the course of the show. And my job isn't to elicit laughter. You know, my job is to make them feel something. So
Yes.
to have them lean in some way.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That's touching such a nerve because the therapeutic comedy shows that I do, often we are bringing the audience to tears because we're talking about body shame or sexual trauma or religious trauma, and we're actually trying to be funny too, but it's a lot more of the story, and it's so raw and real that often before the laughter is that tension, which is often also tears. And but I think that's beautiful, and that's the art of it, is making people feel
Yeah.
and become aware of a new um perspective. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
Mhm.
And
And
laughter, as you know, of course, is therapeutic. So sometimes we laugh even when it's inappropriate because we're just releasing something.
yeah, there's a lot of people laughing in yoga classes, my serious yoga classes, which I don't like to teach
Uh-huh.
anymore. And then when I talk to nurses or hospice workers, the stories they tell are hilarious because they're like, it's really inappropriate when we want to laugh. It's really inappropriate the times that we're releasing um,
Yeah, yeah.
for fear or anxiety through laughter. And of course at funerals you'll see people, you know,
Mhm.
chuckling. But yeah, so it's sometimes out of nervousness, right?
The
And
best, the best group of people I ever led laughter yoga for was a group of nurses.
yes, me
One,
too.
you too, you too, 100 nurses in a circle around the perimeter of this big room. And one section of the circle had to step out because they were laughing so hard. They were crying and then they couldn't breathe. They had to like step out to the hall to sort of get themselves together a little bit.
I love it. I mean it's their lifeline. It sounds
Oh,
like nurses actually, like, they huddle up and they, like, you know, in the hall, like, you think they're doing something with the chart, but they're actually laughing and releasing it. I played Two Truths and a Lie, which is, of course, is an
oh yeah.
name two truths and then one lie, and we'll guess which is the lie, with nurses recently. First of all, everything they have done, heroes, disgusting, gruesome. They're like, one time they're just, oh, the things. And then you're like, oh, please, I hope that one's the lie. I hope that's the lie. I can't believe you have to do
Way
that.
worse than fixing your toilet with a hairdryer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't even repeat some of the things because they make me like gag, the things that smell that they have to do. But yeah, what an amazing gift to be able to bring humor into the workspace there so that they can keep their energy up and keep their enthusiasm up so they can save lives under those conditions, especially now. Like, yeah, so I'm so blessed when I can hold space for nurses or doctors, anyone in the healthcare industry, and teachers too. My goodness, like they're working double time for the same amount of money,
Yep.
and a whole lot of complaining around it too. So yeah, I think the healing with humor work and the improv work and the holding space for people to play is so important,
Well,
especially.
medical improv
Mm,
is like just the fact that those terms exist together. Like I'm not like making up terminology. Like you can
yeah.
Google medical improv and you will find things on the internet about medical improv. And it's so, so great that that's happening because there's like well, three things that are happening simultaneously. One is the stress factor of the medical personnel. The second is um, that disconnect with communication because the doctors and nurses are generally operating, you know, with communication that's scientific and
Mm,
not, you know, man, woman on the street. So
mm,
through medical improv, they can be more empathetic and also direct their language to the patient in a way that is more comforting and makes more sense.
mm.
And then the third thing is, especially now, is like uh, figuring out ways to deal with challenging patients,
Yeah.
you know, through an improv mindset.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about I didn't even know it was called medical improv, but my theater pal Doug Shapiro in New York City, his full-time work now is to act as patients with different issues and
Oh,
crises, and
mm-hmm.
then doctors and nurses practice how to deal with that. So he's having fun, of course, of being all the different characters. But he says it's just such great healing therapeutic work.
You
To
know, I always wanted to do that because I imagine that you're lying down a lot, and I feel like it would be very versatile. Like, I've always been like one step away from doing that work, and I was like, oh, damn, it just didn't work out. Okay, next time, because that just sounds so relaxing.
That's so funny. I haven't heard him say it's relaxing, but I'll ask him if he lies down a lot and I'll hook you up. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Because
That's
you're not like really getting anything done to you, but you get to lie on the
we're
medical
not
table.
actually hurting you. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
One
That's
day, one day.
one day I'll aspire to be a fake
A
patient on
vacation,
a
yes.
journey.
I went to yoga this morning, and I fell a few weeks ago off a curb in front of the post office. So I have this huge thing on my knee. So I can't do any of the things that require being
Kneeling.
on my knees.
Mm.
So I basically got to do the whole yoga class on my back today on the
Mm.
floor. And I was like, oh my God, this is like turning lemons into lemonade for sure. Can't be on my knee. Great. I get to lie down the entire class.
I've done that before. I walk into a yoga class and I'm really tired, and like I know all I can do is start on my back. And I'll say, so what's going on with everybody's body today? Which I always do ask, and it's true and authentic that I do care. But I'm really excited when they're like, well, I've got this little like thing in my back or thing. I'm like, oh, this is where we're gonna need to start. Like in honor of all of your back issues, we're going to do some therapeutic back work, and we're going to start on our backs. In fact, what would be super healing is if we just did the whole class
The
on
whole
our back,
thing.
the entire hour. Let's grab a strap, a bolster, we're good.
Well, my other dream is for the yoga studio to give me a little award for person who most easily snores.
During meditation.
Because the other people are always like, how do you fall asleep so soundly, so easily? Like, it is a skill. It is a skill.
I'm impressed and envious of that skill. Yes, yes. I need a whole lot of hours to quiet my mind. Very good. You are in tune and grounded if you can fall asleep so quickly. You're so fun. I would just like sit here and play games with you and laugh and giggle with you all day, but I'm wondering if the audience would get bored of us just having fun and they get to just watch us have.
Oh, what an audience getting bored by us.
Who cares if they're bored? We're having.
That's right. Well, actually, it's funny that you say that, and also the other kind of funny, because that whole follow the fun concept, I my students who actually want to perform on stage someday, I tell them, if you're having fun, the audience is having fun too.
Mhm.
They'll get on their head about like, am I good enough, when I get on stage. Even if whatever you're doing is terrible improv, if
Mm,
you're up there having fun,
yeah,
whoever is watching you is going to be having fun.
that is true. That is so true. I think that when I go to community theater or high school theater or even better elementary school theater, and there's the kid who like totally doesn't know the dance or whether they're going the wrong way, but they're having so
But
much
they're
fun.
smiling. Yes.
And then you go to a more professional show and everyone's very serious and they're not, it's just like so polished. It doesn't always light me up. But yeah, I love it when I see somebody just enjoying themselves. Yeah, that's
Well,
contagious.
and that brings up a good point too, and maybe you talk to your laughter yoga people about this. Um, this whole concept of laughing when something is funny versus laughing to laugh.
Mm.
Because little kids will laugh all the time. And if you
Mhm.
ask them why they're laughing, like sometimes they don't even know why they're laughing
Mhm.
because they're just laughing for for joy, but they can't even articulate that that's why
Right.
they're laughing, right? Like
Right.
just because they can. Whereas, and I was doing uh, laughter yoga on Zoom last week with senior citizens. Oh my God, they were so funny. They're so serious. And so then I started talking about, well, if we were to just give ourselves permission to laugh, not wait for this whole like challenge thing, like challenge me to laugh. I'm gonna be real serious
Yeah.
till you make me laugh.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, then they started laughing. I was like, oh, that wasn't even meant to be funny, but yes, more please, right?
That's the easiest way to get my kid to laugh if he's in a really pissy mood and he's just not giving me any grace. I'm like, all right, well, as long as you don't laugh. Don't laugh. Don't you laugh. Don't you even turn those. No. And then before you know it, he's like, oh, you're such a dork. And he's mad. He's mad at making him laugh. But like you can't not, right? Yeah.
Oh.
Such a
So do the folks who listen to your podcast know what laughter yoga is? I imagine they're experts.
Oh, I doubt that there's a lot of experts out there. I don't know. They probably know of it and they've heard me talk about it a little bit, but I don't know who's listening. The 3,000 people, 300,000 people right now who are listening to our podcast might not know.
Oh my goodness. Well, we should maybe, describe what it is.
Sure. Yeah, give us the summary.
Um, well, so you know that there was a doctor studying the benefits of laughter in India,
Mhm.
and he would go to the park and tell the same jokes every day.
Mhm.
And I just want to see that in real life, like this poor man going to the park. Day one, oh, that's kind of funny, a little chuckle, and then day two, it gets worse. Day three, it gets even worse.
That's commitment.
And of course they stopped laughing, and he said, well, what if the body doesn't know the difference between real laughter and fake laughter?
Mhm.
And he asked them to please laugh for no reason.
Mhm.
And so they did, and he realized the
Mhm.
body doesn't know the difference between real laughter and fake laughter, only the mind does.
Right.
And then he is married to a traditional yoga teacher who said, if you have these people doubled over with laughter at the park, holding on to their guts, they're laughing so hard, you have to ask them to please breathe in between. And that was the beginning. And what
That
I wouldn't have given to have been a fly on a tree in that park to have
mm,
seen this whole thing go down.
yeah. And didn't he also teach that after, I think it was, I can't remember if it's 20 or 40 seconds of fake laughter that you actually start actually laughing, like your
Yeah.
body begins to believe that you're laughing
Yeah.
for whatever pleasure or fun. And then you actually start laughing. And I do that on Clubhouse. Initially I say, let's do a 15-second laugh off because they're like, oh, brother. And they like click off if they think I'm too crazy. So we do 15 seconds and that goes really fast. But then when I up it to the 30 seconds, which you can't stop them. Like once they start going, then it's like a minute and I haven't even, I'll say stop and they won't stop because then it's
Right.
real and it's just more contagious. And yeah, so I love that about laughter yoga. I look forward to teaching and participating in laughter yoga in person. Um, Again, yeah, because I just I find that it's a little bit more challenging online. I want to like feel my belly move, and then I want to stick my head on
Yeah.
somebody else's belly and feel their belly move. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's
it's like everything is always richer in person, and having the luxury of having the technology has enabled us to cross paths with people that we wouldn't normally cross paths with.
so true. So true. Yes, it's been wonderful. I don't think I would have met you because I
Yeah,
wouldn't
we wouldn't have met each other. Yeah.
Gary. Oh yeah, I wouldn't have met Kirsten, who's play ADHD, who introduced me to Gary, who introduced me to you, who somehow I found Jeff. It's like, oh, this
Uh-huh.
world of play people out there. I had no idea that was out
Well, my boyfriend was asked me, he said, I don't understand how you have so many friends that you've never actually met.
there. Yes. Yes. And when we meet in person, when I go down to Florida in the winter of Maine, so that means anytime between October,
Most of the years, but you mean, yes.
anytime between October and April when I visit you in Florida, we won't miss a beat. It'll be just like we've known each other, because you can establish dear close friendships online. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad to have had this opportunity to do that, and I miss hugging people. So
Yeah,
I want both.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's gonna be one big hug fest.
Yeah.
As people become more and more vaccinated.
Yes. Yes.
There's a woman that I know, and Jeff and Gary knows from this big event that we used to do every year, and she would run a hug meetup at the event, and she's the sweetest gal, and she lives alone in Canada, and I just think the sweetest gal who runs these little hug meetups has been up there freezing to death in Canada alone, basically hugging herself.
Mm-hmm.
A strange time, like
it is
especially to live alone, like for the people who have lived alone. All this Zoom stuff has been a lifeline of friendships and activities and mental health and wellness support.
Absolutely. Thank goodness we have all of this available to us. Virtual hugging and friendships abound online.
I found a dog at the beginning of lockdown, and I thought the dog was going to be with me like a week till he was, reunited with wherever he came from. The dog has now been with me for a year.
Aw.
His name is Corona, because it's something positive that happened during coronavirus.
Nice reframe.
My boyfriend will say, "Oh, please, you always want to, say, oh, that damn dog, blah, blah, blah." And you needed a buddy as soon as lockdown started. You know it. I said, "I had 2 cats." He's like, "A different kind of buddy."
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have your little Corona friend. Sweet.
My big stinky dog. Yes, that's what I've had during the virus. My big stinky dog and my Zoom play groups.
That sounds pleasurable. This is me trying to wrap it up. So it has been, because I could tell, because we could just keep going.
All day, marathon.
And we got a dog. And we should tell them what laughter yoga is all about.
And then eventually we'll have to pee. So, right?
It all circles back to the pee, to our bladders.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Very tiny little bladders, big hearts, tiny bladders. So we need to go pee.
Yes.
And so we will close this off by saying, how can we find you, Amy, online, or if somebody wants to play with you or take one of your classes, how shall they find you?
Oh, they can find me via the Adventure Project website. So it's adventure-project.com.
Okay, very good. Yes, I found it easy to find you on, because your last name, Angelilli, is very unique. And I always try to figure out if I have the right amount of L's at any point, but I can find you on Facebook and Instagram really easily.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good. I lately have been saying in Instagram and Facebook, trying to be, tapping into my sexy, sensual side. I learned this from one of my pleasure expert guests. She's like, you could just slide into my DM and leave me a message. So I've been trying that on. It doesn't always work. But if anybody would like to reach out to me, you can just slide into my DM or leave me an email. And you can find me online at pashamarlow.com. And please subscribe to the podcast, because it makes us look really good. And then more people will listen, and then I'll get great guests to continue to come on the show.
Great guests to slide on in.
Yes, get all these famous people to slide on into my podcast and play with me. Yes, please. Thank you, Amy, for being willing to come in and play with me today. It's been a pleasure.
I had fun, Pasha.
Thank you.
My face hurts from smiling.
Yay, that's always a good sign. Super. And thank you all out there for joining us today. We hope to play with you again soon.